Admiral Scathar of the Galactic Exploration Fleet stood motionless on the bridge of his flagship, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. His antennae twitched as they processed the chemical signatures of fear emanating from his crew. The tension in the atmosphere was justified. They had just encountered the first human military vessel near Jupiter's orbit. "Status report on the unknown vessel," he mandated, his translator converting his clicks into standard galactic basic. "Sir, it appears to be a single patrol craft. Minimal weapons signature by our standards. Crew complement estimated at 20, his sensor officer reported with characteristic precision. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. His battle group consisted of 5 top-of-the-line warships, each carrying the finest warriors the Scathar had to offer. This would be a simple first contact scenario. Demonstrate overwhelming superiority, demand surrender, and establish diplomatic relations from a position of strength. "Open communications," he ordered. "Standard first contact protocols." The response came swiftly, but not through their communication systems. The human vessel launched what his sensors initially classified as debris. Within moments, his tactical officer's alarmed shriek filled the bridge. "Multiple high-velocity kinetic penetrators incoming. They're targeting our drive systems with precision we've never encountered." Before the Admiral could process this information, 3 of his support ships reported critical damage. The humans had somehow identified and targeted exact structural weaknesses that even his own engineers hadn't documented. "Impossible," he chittered. "They couldn't have analyzed our weaknesses so quickly. These must be their elite forces." The human vessel moved with startling agility, executing maneuvers that should have turned their crew into organic paste. Their point defense systems tracked and eliminated incoming fire with casual precision, while their return fire continued to strike with devastating accuracy. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," the communications officer announced. A human voice, translated into Galactic Basic, filled the bridge. "This is Lieutenant Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Force patrol vessel Thunderchild. Your vessels have entered restricted space. Stand down immediately, or we will be forced to take additional action." Admiral Scathar's pride warred briefly with his tactical analysis. 4 of his ships were now combat ineffective, their crews struggling with emergency repairs. Only his flagship remained fully operational, and the human vessel showed no signs of strain. "Open a channel," he ordered, mandibles tight with controlled fury. "This is Admiral Scathar. We submit to your authority in this sector. Request immediate dialogue." The response was surprisingly cordial. "Understood, Admiral. Holding position. Please maintain your current stance while we arrange proper diplomatic contact." As they waited for diplomatic vessels to arrive, the Admiral's curiosity overcame his wounded pride. "Lieutenant Chen, I must know, are you one of Earth's legendary special combat units? Your capabilities far exceed our intelligence reports." There was a pause, followed by what his translator identified as laughter. "Oh no, sir. We're just a regular patrol unit. Pretty fresh out of basic training, actually. If you want to see something impressive, you should meet our special forces." The Admiral's translator must have malfunctioned. He requested clarification 3 times, but the answer remained the same. This was a standard human military unit, not even considered particularly experienced by their standards. In his private quarters later that evening, Admiral Scathar composed his report to the High Command. He stared at the final line for a long time before sending it. "If these are their regular forces, I strongly advise against any action that might cause us to encounter their special units. Request immediate diplomatic intervention and revision of all human military capability assessments." As he watched the message transmit, he noticed his hands were still shaking. Not from fear of the humans' weapons or their tactical prowess, but from the implications. What kind of species considered those terrifying capabilities basic, and what did that suggest about their actual elite units? He made a personal note to request reassignment to any sector of space that didn't involve human contact. Some mysteries, he decided, were better left unexplored. The observation deck at Fort Benning hummed with the quiet whispers of alien diplomats and military attaches. They had come from across the galaxy to witness human military training after the Jupiter incident, each hoping to understand how a simple patrol vessel had outmatched a battle group. Ambassador Talira of the Meridian Confluence adjusted her environmental suit's atmospheric filters as she watched the scene below. The morning rain fell in sheets, turning the training ground into a mud-slicked obstacle course. Her species considered such conditions completely unsuitable for any activity, let alone military training. "They'll surely postpone the exercises," she remarked to Colonel Sarah Chen, the same officer from the Jupiter incident who now served as their liaison. "These conditions are hazardous even by human standards, correct?" Sarah smiled. A gesture Talira had learned indicated amusement rather than aggression. Actually, the instructors consider this perfect training weather. "Look, here come the candidates now." Through the rain, Talira watched as a group of humans emerged from their barracks. Each carried what her sensors indicated was 70 pounds of equipment, nearly the body weight of an adult Meridian. Instead of seeking shelter, they began running. "These are your elite warriors?" asked General Kovacs of the Regelian Defense Force, his crystalline form reflecting the lightning that flashed overhead. "Oh no," Sarah replied, checking her tablet. "These are regular recruits, week 3 of basic training. They haven't even started the specialized courses yet." The aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans navigated the obstacle course. They climbed ropes slick with rain, crawled under electrified wire through mud that would have drowned smaller species, and cleared walls twice their height while carrying their full gear. "Fascinating," muttered Dr. Xinri, a xenobiologist. "They appear to be encouraging each other despite the adverse conditions. Listen to their vocalizations." Indeed, the humans were calling out to their struggling teammates, helping those who faltered, and even engaging in what appeared to be humor. One group, after successfully crossing a particularly challenging water obstacle, broke into song. "They're singing." Talira's translator struggled with the concept. "In these conditions, it builds unit cohesion," Sarah explained, making notes on her tablet. "The harder the conditions, the stronger the bonds formed between recruits. We call it shared adversity training." The observers watched as an instructor called a halt to the exercise. Several alien diplomats relaxed, assuming the humans had reached their limits. Instead, the instructor announced this was just the warm-up, and now the real training would begin. Colonel Chen, General Kovacs's crystalline form, vibrated with concern. "You mentioned these are regular recruits. What distinguishes your special forces from these warriors?" Sarah thought for a moment. "Well, for our special forces, we'd run this same course at night, probably add some tear gas, maybe take away their food and sleep for a few days first. You know, just to make it interesting." The observation deck fell silent except for the sound of rain against the windows. Talira noticed several diplomats discreetly updating their reports to their homeworlds. She watched as the recruits below began their next evolution, now carrying what appeared to be heavy logs in addition to their gear. "Ambassador," Sarah said, breaking the silence, "would your delegation like to join the recruits for tomorrow morning's session? We encourage hands-on experience." Talira's translator nearly shorted out as the entire alien delegation simultaneously declined the offer in 17 different languages. Later that evening, Talira composed her report to the Meridian Council. She wrote and rewrote the conclusions several times before settling on. Their basic training would qualify as extreme survival testing by our standards. Most notably, they consider these conditions conducive to learning, request immediate revision of military engagement protocols, and suggest classification of all humans as extreme environment specialists. As she sent the report, she watched through her window as a group of recruits jogged past in the darkness, still singing despite the continuing rain. She made a personal note to research human history. Something had shaped this species into warriors who smiled at hardship, and she intended to find out what. Senior analyst Vexna pored over the mountain of data collected from the human military equipment demonstration. Her four wings twitched with agitation as she compiled her findings for the Galactic Defense Council. Nothing made sense. "These figures must be incorrect," she muttered, running the calculations for the 7th time. No species would willingly carry this much weight into combat. The holoscreen displayed detailed scans of standard human infantry equipment, body armor, weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, communication gear, and what humans called basic survival equipment. The total weight exceeded what most spacefaring species could lift, let alone carry for extended periods. Her assistant, junior analyst Kip, floated into her office on gravitatic fields. "The human representative has arrived to answer our questions about the equipment analysis." Master Sergeant James Rodriguez strode in, carrying his full combat load as requested. Vexna's sensors indicated the weight distribution would have crippled most species. The human showed no signs of discomfort. "You had some questions about our standard gear." Rodriguez adjusted his pack with casual ease. "Yes," Vexna's translator clicked. "Our analysis suggests your troops routinely carry approximately 40% of their body weight in equipment. This cannot be standard practice." Rodriguez chuckled. "Actually, we often carry more. This is just a light patrol kit. For extended operations, we might pack up to 60% of our body weight." The gravity in Kit's field fluctuated with shock. "But how do you fight while bearing such burdens?" "Fight? Oh, this isn't our fighting load. This is just what we carry to get to the fight. Once we make contact, we can drop our packs and move faster." Vexna's wings fluttered in distress as she made notes. "Our data shows your species operates this way in all environments. Desert, Arctic, jungle, underwater." "Well, yeah," Rodriguez shrugged, the motion causing his equipment to shift in ways that made Kip's gravitational field wobble. "Different environments just mean different gear. Though we usually pack lighter for underwater ops unless we're doing extended submarine lockouts." "Submarine lockouts?" Kip's translator struggled with the term. "Sure. Sometimes we need to exit a submarine while it's still submerged. Great way to insert behind enemy lines. Though the water pressure can be a pain if you're deep enough." Vexna stopped writing. Her species had evolved in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant. The concept of willingly subjecting oneself to crushing water pressure while carrying heavy equipment seemed like a particularly creative form of suicide. "Master Sergeant," she said carefully, "what do your troops consider their most challenging environment for carrying equipment?" Rodriguez thought for a moment. "Probably high-altitude operations above 25,000 feet. The thin air makes the weight more noticeable, though some units train specifically for that." Above 25,000 feet, Kit's gravitational field nearly collapsed. "Without atmospheric suits. We use supplemental oxygen above certain altitudes, but otherwise, it's the same basic load. Want to see our high-altitude gear? I think we have some in the demonstration area." Both analysts declined rapidly, their species equivalent of pale faces clearly visible. Later that night, Vexna finished her report to the council. Her conclusion was simple. Human standard equipment loads exceed the carrying capacity of 87% of known spacefaring species. They consider this normal. Most critically, they appear to view environmental hazards as mere logistics challenges rather than operational limitations. She added a personal addendum. "Recommend immediate review of all defense treaties. Any species capable of treating crushing ocean pressures and oxygen-deprived mountain peaks as routine operational environments must be considered a strategic priority for peaceful relations." As she filed the report, a notification appeared on her screen. The humans had submitted their equipment demonstration schedule for the following week. The first item read, "Orbital drop equipment configurations. Practical demonstration available for interested observers." Vexna immediately filed for vacation leave. Some demonstrations, she decided, were better observed from a very, very safe distance. The Himalayan Joint Training Facilities Command Center buzzed with activity as Commander Yuki Chen watched the incoming storm on the meteorological displays. Outside, wind-driven snow reduced visibility to near zero, and temperatures had plummeted well below what most species considered survivable. "All alien observation units have been grounded," reported Lieutenant Park. "The Arcturus delegation is requesting we recall the human units as well." Yuki glanced at the status board where 12 green dots showed the positions of the human reconnaissance team moving through the whiteout conditions. "Did anyone inform our guests that this is a standard weather operation?" "Yes, Mom." The Arcturian chief of operations insisted that no intelligent species would continue military exercises in these conditions. Park's lips twitched. He seemed quite distressed when I mentioned the team planned to make camp on the glacier. The command center's doors hissed open, admitting Ambassador Anxhall of the Arcturus Federation. His environmental suit glowed with the strain of maintaining his preferred temperature of 40 degrees Celsius. "Commander Chen," his translator warbled with urgency, "you must suspend operations immediately. Our meteorological analysis indicates conditions unsuitable for biological survival." Yuki pulled up the team's biotelemetry on her display. "Thank you for your concern, Ambassador, but Echo Team is well within normal operational parameters. In fact, their team leader just requested permission to extend the exercise for an additional 48 hours. They found some interesting crevasse formations they'd like to explore." The ambassador's environmental suit flickered in what Yuki had learned indicated extreme agitation. "Commander, perhaps my translator is malfunctioning. Are you suggesting your troops wish to remain in lethal conditions for educational purposes?" "Of course," Yuki nodded. "Winter warfare and survival training is essential for our mountain units, though this is fairly mild compared to their usual Arctic operations." The ambassador's translator emitted a series of sounds that made several human technicians wince. "Mild? Your team is operating in conditions that would flash freeze my species in seconds. Would you like to see their current activity feed?" Yuki offered, pulling up the helmet camera footage on the main screen. The feed showed the reconnaissance team constructing snow shelters while maintaining full security protocols. 2 soldiers were preparing hot meals using small stoves, while others practiced avalanche rescue techniques. Someone had apparently built a snow sculpture of what appeared to be a tauntaun from Star Wars. "They seem to be enjoying themselves," Yuki noted, as laughter filtered through the combat net, accompanying a good-natured snowball fight that had broken out during a patrol rotation. Ambassador Anxhall stared at the screen in silence for several minutes. "Commander," he finally said, his translator struggling to convey his tone, "are these your Special Forces troops?" "Echo Team." "No, they're a regular mountain infantry unit, though a few of them are trying out for Special Forces selection next month." Yuki checked their status again. "Actually, this exercise is part of their preparation." "Their preparation?" The ambassador's environmental suit temperature regulation spiked briefly. "Yes, Special Forces selection is considerably more demanding. This is just basic cold weather training." 3 days later, Echo Team returned to base, tired but in high spirits. They had mapped several new mountain routes, tested experimental cold weather gear, and even rescued a lost civilian climber they'd encountered. The Arcturian delegation had departed the previous day, citing an urgent need to update their military doctrine. Their final diplomatic message contained only one line: "If these are their normal troops in mild conditions, we formally withdraw all requests for information about Special Forces winter operations." Yuki filed her after-action report, noting with amusement that the team had rated the conditions pleasant, with excellent snow consistency for shelter construction. She added a personal recommendation that future joint exercises should perhaps begin with more moderate scenarios. Then she checked the weather forecast. Another storm was approaching, larger than the last. She already had 7 teams requesting permission to deploy into it. Director Zena Pax of the Galactic Military Exchange Program, stared through the reinforced observation window at the churning waters of the Pacific Ocean. Her third heart was giving her trouble again as she watched the depth indicator tick past numbers that made her species mathematicians nervous. 400 meters and still descending, announced Captain Michelle Torres of the U.S. Navy. The team should be reaching the training zone shortly. The alien dignitaries crowded around the submarine's observation ports had fallen into stunned silence hours ago when they'd witnessed the Special Forces team simply step off their transport craft into the open ocean. Now they watched the depth telemetry with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Captain," Zena's translator worked overtime to keep her voice steady. "You mentioned this is their first exercise of the day." "That's correct." Michelle checked her tablet. "After the deep water infiltration, they'll proceed with the mountain phase. We've arranged transport to get the observation team to the insertion point." High General Crix of the Centaurian Defense Fleet swiveled one eye stalk toward the captain. "Surely you mean after a rest period?" "No, sir. The mountain ascent needs to begin before dusk to maintain the training schedule. The team will proceed directly there after surfacing." The observation chamber's atmosphere tasted of alien stress hormones as the depth indicator continued its descent. Finally, the numbers stabilized at 600 meters. "They've reached the training depth," Michelle announced. "Now they'll proceed with the underwater navigation course." The aliens watched in silence as helmet camera feeds showed the Special Forces team moving through the crushing darkness with practiced ease. Their equipment, specially designed for these depths, allowed them to communicate and operate as if they were on a casual afternoon stroll. "Are they playing games?" asked Zena, watching one operator make hand signals that caused his teammates to shake with laughter. "Just maintaining morale," Michelle smiled. "Humor is an important tool in high-stress environments." 6 hours later, the team surfaced, boarding their transport with the same casual efficiency they'd displayed all morning. The alien observers noticed they were already checking their equipment for the mountain phase. "The peak is only 4,000 meters, one operator was heard saying. "Should be a nice easy climb to wrap up the day." The transport delivered the observation team to a mountain base station, while the Special Forces unit began their ascent. Zena watched through high-powered optics as the humans, who had been operating in crushing ocean depths mere hours ago, moved up the steep face with remarkable speed. "Director Pax," Michelle offered her some human coffee. "You seem troubled." "Captain, my species evolved in pressure-controlled habitats. We build cities in space because planetary conditions are too extreme." Zena's translator clicked rapidly. "Yet these humans transition from ocean depths to mountain peaks in the same day. For practice." "Well, this is just a basic capabilities maintenance exercise," Michelle explained. "Real operations might require more complex environmental transitions." "More complex?" High General Crix's eye stalks quivered. "Sure. Sometimes our teams need to operate in zero gravity, then transition to underwater operations, followed by high-altitude desert insertions, all while maintaining full mission capability." The observation room fell silent again, broken only by the sound of someone's environmental suit stress cycling. That evening, Zena composed her report to the Galactic Council. She wrote simply, "Human special forces routinely operate in environments that our engineers classify as uninhabitable, often transitioning between multiple such environments in a single day. Most concerning, they appear to consider this routine." She added a personal note. "After witnessing today's exercises, I understand why Admiral Scathar requested reassignment after encountering their regular forces. If these are their special operators in training, I recommend we never discover what they're capable of in actual combat." As she finished her report, a notification appeared. Tomorrow's demonstration. Arctic survival and spacecraft breach scenarios. Attendance optional. Zena immediately booked passage on the next transport off Earth. The briefing room at Fort Bragg hummed with tension as General Rax Thor of the Galactic Defense Initiative reviewed the human Special Forces selection documentation. His species' natural crystalline form refracted light in patterns that indicated severe stress. These parameters cannot be correct. He gestured at the holographic display. Your candidates voluntarily submit to these conditions. Major Diana Hayes nodded, adjusting the display to show the current selection class moving through their third day without sleep. Actually, sir, we have to turn away most applicants. Only about 1 in 20 makes it through the initial screening. The alien observers watched as the candidates carried heavy logs through swamps, solved complex mathematical equations while performing physical tasks, and maintained perfect marksmanship scores despite their exhaustion. What happens if they fail? Asked Science Director Vex, her tentacles curling around her datapad. They can try again at the next selection cycle, Diana explained. Many of our best operators failed their first attempt. We value persistence. On the screens, an instructor was adding weight to the candidates' already heavy packs. Several alien observers reflexively adjusted their gravity compensators at the site, and they do not protest this treatment. Raxthor's crystalline form sparkled with confusion. Quite the opposite. Diana pulled up another feed. Watch this team's reaction. The observers fell silent as they watched the instructor inform a group that their evening ruck march would be extended by 20 kilometers. Instead of despair, the candidates showed excitement. One was heard saying, "Finally, a real challenge." Fascinating. Vex's tentacles twisted in complex patterns. They appear to derive satisfaction from increasing difficulty. It's a fundamental part of our selection process, Diana said. We're not just testing physical capabilities. We're looking for people who thrive under adverse conditions. The feed switched to a night operation. Candidates were solving complex tactical scenarios while standing chest-deep in cold water. Despite their obvious exhaustion, they were supporting each other, sharing techniques, and even cracking jokes. Major Hayes, Raxthor's translator, struggled to convey his tone. Your regular forces already operate at levels our species consider extreme. What exactly are you selecting these humans for? Diana considered the question carefully. We're looking for individuals who can maintain clear judgment and positive attitudes in any environment, while carrying out complex missions with minimal support. Any environment. Vex's tentacles went rigid. Sure, Diana brought up the training schedule. After this phase, they'll move on to Arctic survival, desert warfare, jungle operations, high-altitude training, underwater infiltration. Enough. Raxthor's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. These candidates, they seek out these challenges. Oh yes, Diana smiled. Many say selection is the most fun they've had in their military careers. The alien observers watched in silence as the candidates began another evolution, still maintaining perfect precision in their tasks despite their exhaustion. Later that night, Raxthor composed his report to the Galactic Defense Council. His conclusion was succinct. Human Special Forces selection process appears designed to identify individuals who not only survive in conditions we classify as unsurvivable, but actively enjoy such challenges. Most concerning, they consider this process entertaining. He added a personal observation. Their regular forces terrify us because they operate beyond our species' limitations. Their special forces terrify us because they deliberately seek out ways to exceed their own limitations. Recommend immediate classification of all human military personnel as physically and psychologically unique. As he finished, an instructor's voice echoed across the base. Good news, candidates. The weather's getting worse. Time for some real training. The aliens watched through their windows as the candidates cheered, gathering their equipment with enthusiastic efficiency. Raxthor immediately began drafting a request for permanent off-world reassignment. The United Nations Interspecies Training Center buzzed with activity as teams from 17 different alien species prepared for the first-ever joint combat exercise. Dr. Lyra Pax, chief cynobiologist for the Galactic Science Council, adjusted her atmospheric sensors as she observed the preparations. Fascinating, she muttered, watching the human instructors distribute training gear. They're actually teaching their methods to other species. Captain Jack Chen of the U.S. Special Forces approached her observation post, carrying what appeared to be standard human combat equipment. Dr. Pax, would you like to observe from the ground level? The first evolution is about to begin. The training area sprawled across varied terrain, woodland, marsh, and rocky outcrops. Teams of mixed species gathered at different stations, each led by a human instructor who showed no sign of adjusting their pace for their alien students. Your species seems remarkably open about sharing tactical knowledge, Lyra noted as they watched a human demonstrate rapid rope techniques to a group of arthropoid aliens. Knowledge isn't the key factor here, Jack explained, helping a tentacled alien adjust its harness. We're teaching them how to push their own limits safely. Every species has potential they haven't explored. The exercise began with what humans called a simple warm-up. Lyra watched in amazement as species she classified as environmentally restricted began adapting to conditions they'd previously considered impossible. A crystalline Regelian, properly equipped and encouraged, discovered it could operate effectively in wet conditions. A high-gravity species learned it could reduce its mass field to move with surprising agility. Even the atmospheric-dependent Valyrians found they could extend their ground operation time with proper training. Captain, Lyra's translator clicked rapidly. These species are exceeding their documented physiological limitations. Jack grinned as he watched a team of mixed species complete an obstacle course. Those limitations were mostly self-imposed. Sometimes you just need someone to show you what's possible. The most remarkable transformation occurred among the Centaurian team. Their species typically avoided physical exertion, relying on technological solutions. Now they were completing complex tactical maneuvers on foot, their natural agility enhanced by human training methods. We're not teaching them to be human, Jack explained, helping a tired but proud Centaurian adjust its equipment. We're teaching them to be the best version of themselves. As the day progressed, Lyra noticed something extraordinary. The alien teams weren't just copying human techniques. They were adapting them to their unique physiologies and developing new approaches. The humans encouraged this innovation, quickly incorporating effective alien modifications into their training program. Your instructors seem pleased when students exceed their expectations, Lyra observed as a Meridian team developed a new climbing technique using their natural levitation abilities. That's the best part of teaching, Jack smiled. Nothing better than watching someone discover they're capable of more than they imagined. By day's end, every species had achieved something their scientists had previously declared impossible. The training ground echoed with the sounds of 17 different types of celebration. Later, in her private research pod, Lyra composed her report to the Science Council. Her fingers trembled slightly as she wrote, "Human training methods have catalyzed unprecedented physiological and psychological adaptations across multiple species. Their greatest strength appears to be not their own capabilities, but their ability to help others discover hidden potential." She added a personal note. "Most surprising is their genuine joy in sharing knowledge. They seem to take greater pride in their students' achievements than their own accomplishments. Recommend immediate expansion of joint training programs." As she finished, a notification popped up on her screen. Advanced Interspecies Training Program. Now accepting applications. Lyra surprised herself by immediately signing up. After all, she reasoned, proper scientific observation required personal experience. The fact that she'd found herself curious about her own untapped potential was purely secondary. Somewhere in the training facility, she heard the human instructors preparing for the next day's exercises. They were smiling about the weather forecast. Heavy rain with near-zero visibility. Perfect training conditions, they called it. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 200 species gathered for what historians would later call the Terran Revelation Summit. Admiral Chen, now the head of Earth's Interspecies Defense Program, stood at the podium reviewing her notes. High Chancellor Vexthor's crystalline form glowed with anticipation. You have called this session to discuss the results of the Joint Training Initiative. Our preliminary reports are unprecedented. Sarah Chen nodded, activating the holographic display. Images appeared showing various alien species performing feats that, just 1 year ago, had been deemed impossible for their physiologies. Over the past year, she began, we've documented remarkable adaptations across all participating species. The Meridians have developed techniques for extended ground operations. The Centaurians have created new close combat methods. Even the gas-dwelling Heliosians have established permanent surface training facilities. The chamber hummed with excited discussion as video footage showed alien teams completing complex missions alongside human instructors. Most striking were the expressions of pride and accomplishment on faces, tentacles, and crystalline surfaces alike. But the most significant development, Sarah continued, has been the emergence of species-specific training methodologies. We're not creating copies of human soldiers. We're helping each species discover their unique potential. The display showed a Rigelian crystal form instructor teaching advanced camouflage techniques to a mixed species group. In another scene, Meridian levitation experts demonstrated new high-altitude insertion methods they'd developed. The humans have achieved something remarkable, announced Dr. Lyra Pax, now sporting the insignia of a certified interspecies combat instructor. They taught us not just their methods, but their mindset. The belief that limitations exist to be understood, then exceeded. Chancellor Vexthor's form pulsed with curiosity. Admiral Chen, when we first encountered your species, we were terrified by your capabilities. Your regular forces seemed superhuman, and your special forces appeared to defy physical laws. Now you've shown us that such potential exists within all our species. That's been the most rewarding part, Sarah smiled. Watching each species discover their own version of special forces, the Heliosians can now operate in solid matter for extended periods. The crystallines have developed flexibility we never thought possible. Every species has found their own way to push their boundaries. The chamber's atmosphere shifted as understanding dawned across the assembled representatives. They weren't dealing with a species of superhuman warriors. They were dealing with teachers who specialized in unlocking potential. We propose, Sarah announced, the establishment of a Galactic Special Operations Academy, a place where each species can both teach and learn, combining their unique strengths to create something greater than any single approach. The voting was unanimous. Even species that had initially feared human military capability now eagerly supported the initiative. As the session concluded, a young Meridian approached Sarah. Admiral, its translator hummed. My species once thought operating in standard gravity was impossible. Now we're developing our own gravity manipulation techniques. How did you know we could do it? Sarah thought about the long history of human achievement, about people who'd climbed mountains because they were there, dove to ocean depths because they were unexplored, and reached for the stars because they twinkled in the night sky. We didn't know, she answered honestly. We just believed you could. Sometimes that's all anyone needs, someone who believes in their potential. Later, watching the sunset from Earth's new interspecies training command, Sarah composed her final report on the initiative. The greatest discovery wasn't that humans are exceptional. It's that every species has the potential to exceed their limitations. We just happened to learn it first. She added a personal note. Perhaps this is why humans call them special forces. Not because they're inherently special, but because they show everyone else how special they can become. As she finished, the evening training groups began assembling, humans and aliens together, ready to push their boundaries a little further. Someone had predicted challenging weather conditions. Everyone was smiling. End of story.